sell first and then design the product. Being customer first is highly important for teams to have as their number one guiding principle.
How do you see GenAI?
This is an evolving area. Both our customers and us are learning about generative AI. You can't depend on low latency kind of solutions. Many people are bringing that data underneath Kubernetes. Developer shows up with their own database. And so I think a database as a service has become a key area of innovation for us.
Key principles that guide you in building these high-performance teams?
It's actually the customer. Inertia is the greatest enemy in some ways of wonderful technology.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Encounter, where we talk to senior leaders from the tech industry to get their unique perspectives and insights. Today's guest is Murli Thirumale, GM Cloud Native Business Unit, Portworx at Pure Storage. He's a serial entrepreneur and one of the nicest persons I have met. Murli, it's great to have you on my show.
Johnny, it's great to see you. It's been a while, so it's a pleasure to talk to you again.
Murli, let me start by asking you, what are the trends that you are currently seeing that are shaping the cloud-native storage landscape?
You know, one would expect that with all the activity in cloud, in the cloud-native world, that I would have some complex, fancy answer. But you know, as we know, the best things in life are pretty simple, like simple chocolate ice cream versus all these fancy flavors. And really, in the end, I think what we have is two things that are happening, right? You know, I think of them as bigger and higher. So bigger is just the fact that cloud native adoption has come into its own, in the sense that we are now in the early majority phase of the market. It's taken a while. There was a couple of years where there was a slowdown where people were trying to still establish the reliability of and scale of these solutions, but we're well past all of those things now. And I think there's been a consolidation in the industry as well. So the simplest thing I can tell you is that there is a huge adoption right now. So, Gartner released a report recently that said by the year 2029, 1 in 3 application workloads would be running in containers, right? So it's from about 15% today to well over 35% in 2029. And so pretty much, if you have a greenfield application, the likelihood is that most likely you're running it in some sort of a cloud native stack, either in the cloud or on-prem, doesn't matter, there's different technologies. So one trend is simply just greater adoption. The other thing that was bigger. Now, the other thing I said was higher. And what we're seeing, especially with our customers, is that people are putting more and more critical workloads. Many years ago, people would run Prometheus, Grafana workloads, maybe running test workloads and so on. In just this year, right? We just finished our fiscal year, so we had a major top 10 bank running 8,000 nodes of tier 0 workloads, payments, bank transfers, for example, and we're seeing that all over the place, right, with major financial institutions. Another example is 2 of the largest electric vehicle manufacturers are using us on their production line. And one of them told us, for example, that 1 minute of downtime is equal to 2 cars or 150K, US dollars for them. So these are examples where people are trusting larger and more critical workloads, whether it's, our top 3 segments are service providers, FSIs, and companies like retail. And these are all, major Fortune 2000 companies that are putting their workloads on Kubernetes.
Absolutely. So bigger and higher. So I think that summarizes everything. No wonder Kubernetes has become boring, which means the enterprise adoption has started. And what you're actually saying is echoing the same. Perfect. So, Murli, I have been watching this segment for the last decade. And in the last few years, I think just before and just after COVID, there has been a significant consolidation in the cloud native storage ecosystem. I
Yep.
think almost all the players are acquired, including Portworx. So I'm actually curious to understand how do you see this consolidation and what does this mean for innovation and competition?
So absolutely right, right? The consolidation has happened. In fact, I would say it's mostly done, but it's not, there's always new entrants and continuing consolidation. So um, the headline I would say for consolidation is very simple. Point products lost and platforms won, right? And so startups tend to be very single feature oriented sometimes, or focused on one or two key capabilities, and that really helped the industry along for a while because it allowed these features to come to become more prominent, to be deployed. But in the end, I think there are a few platforms that have won. So what are some of the platforms, right? uh, Largely, in my view, I think there's the orchestration platforms. So obviously, companies like Red Hat, say, all the cloud platforms, EKS, AKS, GKE. I guess I would say Rancher and SUSE, for example. So some of these orchestration platforms have won. Uh, the second set of platforms that have won are security platforms, and some of these are consolidated into larger security companies, but for the most part, you have things like Aqua, Sysdig, Prisma Cloud, and so on. So security features sneak and so on, depending on where you are in the development and deployment cycle. And then the third one is storage and data platforms, data management platforms. If you provided only storage persistence, so let's talk about data platforms, right? If you provided only storage persistence, yeah, that was a good start, but that was nearly not enough because as people deployed along the life cycle, they needed to provide backup capabilities. They needed to be able to use disaster recovery capabilities. And now, for example, data services are being managed underneath Kubernetes. So people who were able to provide a one-stop shop for all of these really, enabled customers to consolidate what they were deploying and also kind of have simpler vendor management, vendor consolidation. That's always been a trend independent of cloud native. So one, I think, is the consolidation. Now, you ask actually a very interesting question. Did that harm innovation, right?
Hmm.
And look, as a serial entrepreneur, you would expect me to say that startups are always the source of all or most innovation. And yes, there's a lot of innovation that happens in startups, but 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 really, I think innovation has taken a big leap forward in the cloud native industry, perhaps because of this consolidation. There's two reasons for that, right? One of them is larger companies are able to throw more resources into feature development and testing in particular, right? And so what has happened is a combination of good work by the CNCF, but also by having some of these, solutions have immense amount of testing. These products have stabilized, right? There used to be a time when you would worry about, is my cloud native deployment stable? Is it performant? Is it going to crumble at scale? And a lot of those problems have gone away. The APIs have stabilized, the feature set have stabilized, these products are tested. So it has formed the basis for a good amount of innovation to happen on top of a very, very stable base of core features. And frankly, I think because of the growth in the industry, most of these companies that have acquired these companies have continued to invest in them. As let's pick on Red Hat, for example. Red Hat has had continued investment from IBM, and helped kind of. IBM, in fact, reposition itself as a cloud and hybrid company, and Pure Storage too has continued to invest in us. And So I really don't see innovation as having slowed down. I think there continue to be startups. They continue to offer point products, and they kind of uh, add kind of subset features. So their innovation is in sort of subset areas. But on a platform basis, I think the innovation has been great.
Awesome. So I had the first-hand experience of how Portworx evolved, from PX storage, the core, to PX backup and PDS, and now you are literally enabling enterprises to run managed database services, with the same reliability as the cloud. So I think that trajectory has been pretty interesting. So you mentioned about Pure Storage investment and acquisition of Portworx. So tell us more about that. What happened when Pure approached you, and what was the strategic rationale behind this acquisition?
Look, I have been acquired before. I've had two other startups, and we've been acquired other times. So there's kind of these acquisitions can range from sometimes disastrous, some to very successful. I've been fortunate that I think all of our acquisitions have ended up not just right side up, but actually done fairly well for the companies that acquired them. And in my mind, there are three things that make an acquisition successful. Okay, and the first thing is strategic alignment, and second thing is cultural alignment, and third thing is tactical execution. Okay, so let's take these three in turn. I think for me, uh, culture is very, very important, not just to a startup but to any company. And I think one of the things I looked for was cultural alignment with Pure Storage, and I'm delighted to tell you that we have huge cultural alignment with Pure. I've said this before, and it's one of the most important things that can hold back success. And I think both companies are startups at heart. It's we are customer first organizations. We're both we win by having a better product. So it's product innovation, and having a better product is key. And the third thing is we're very much team oriented. So these are sort of the three cultural threads that pull us together, and that's continued after the acquisition. The second thing is strategic alignment, and I think it's very, very clear that data and data management is a key part of the container landscape of being able to successfully deploy applications. Because as I've always said, right, there's an application and data sandwich, right? There's two parts to this, and orchestrating and providing a bunch of capabilities to make applications successful is incomplete without providing the data part of the sandwich. And so uh, data and data management, storage and data management have become critical. I think this year IDC announced that container data management is a category, is establishing the fact that this is a very important category. And so there is strategic alignment. Every storage vendor that wants to provide and support a container workload essentially needs to provide some specific capabilities. And let me be very clear here. CSI is not enough, right? CSI
Mhm.
is an API, an interface. And Johnny, you're well versed in this technology. You understand it well, so you understand what I'm talking about, right? An API does not make for a platform. A platform is not the same as having an API, and so uh, uh, Pure Storage has benefited by being able to kind of provide stronger capability in our customers, and there's a large number of them who are deploying, containerized solutions, looking for a bunch of capabilities in container data management. Third thing is tactical execution, and that is an ongoing, opportunity for any acquired company and acquiring company. And I think we're just getting started, to be honest, right? I think the good news is that a large number of our wins since we've been acquired are in Pure Storage customers. Storage customers are some of the most advanced customers in the world, right? They are winners in their own categories, and as winners in their category, they're deploying a lot of modern apps, and modern apps today are hosted in cloud native architectures. They're using modern data services like Postgres, Redis, Kafka, Spark streaming workloads, and all of those technologies are inherently benefiting from cloud native deployments. And so I think the acquisition, in my view, has been hugely successful. We've had lots of investment. We've tripled the size of the team. We've quadrupled the size of the business, and all those are markers of success.
Awesome. So now switching gears and talking about the buzzword of the industry, generative AI. So how do you see GenAI influencing cloud native storage solutions? And specifically, what does it mean to Portworx and,
Yeah.
and your customers?
Yeah, look, I mean, this is an evolving area, right? I think both our customers and us are learning about generative AI and so on. But let's take each one of these things in turn, right? If I had to kind of talk about this first, let's look at a few topics, right? Um, uh, LLM development, right? If you're trying to get to create uh, large language models, then you really you can't depend on low latency kind of solutions. Everybody's using object storage. It's familiar, it's available, it's inexpensive, and some of those solutions, just are not have a lot of latency. They don't provide all of the fully automated solutions like block storage solutions, and so on. And so many people are bringing in and bringing that data underneath Kubernetes and managing it under Kubernetes. It gives them highly reliable performance solutions that are automated in spite of problems with high availability and so on that might happen in the underlying storage. And so this creates a high availability environment with low latency and lots of automation, which is all ideally suited for LLM training and LLM development, right? Another area and similar in its respect is fine tuning of LLM models. People take LLM models, they do some fine tuning, and again, I think the ability to take an open source model and then kind of tweak it and bring it into your own environment is better done under a fully automated solution like Kubernetes. We have the ability to do, for example, Portworx can do, take the same file and do read many kind of things, so the same data can be shared by multiple users and multiple models and so on. Even things, people who are using RAG models are finding that bringing those data services under Kubernetes gives them the ability to have ready access, brings that data under sort of local control, and allows them to have immediate and ready access to their data scientists and so on. So the management capabilities, the flexibility, the elastic nature which you need, right, for because it's compute and is very very elastic in these models. Training requires a different thing versus actual model use. So all of these are aligned with some of the benefits of cloud native, and data management is a key area for us. And so Portworx, in the last couple of years, I would say we're seeing about just under 20%, about 17% of our workloads are AI ML workloads, right? And we're seeing this in financial services, fraud detection, other examples are trading models where people are using AI for that. We're seeing this in connected car areas. So those are where we see a lot of these. And then in retail. So retail is an area where certainly probably more ML than generative AI, right? So there's a whole range of generative AI is always the sexy part. We have a few generative AI customers, but really it's AI and ML, all three areas. I think are areas which are well suited, that cloud native is well suited for.
Absolutely. So Kubernetes is well positioned for on-prem Gen AI. In fact, all the service providers of GenAI like OpenAI, Hugging Face, NVIDIA, and some of the other inference as a service providers, all of them are running Kubernetes. So
Yep.
when it actually hits the enterprise, I think Portworx is well positioned to exploit that. Awesome. So Murli, talking about something non-technical. So you have built highly successful startups and high-performance teams in the past. So what are some of the key principles that guide you in building these high-performance teams?
It's just kind of a wide topic. So, look, let me start with the most important uh, uh, most important factor. All right, and it's actually the customer, right? So, being customer first is highly important for teams to have as their number one guiding principle. And so every startup that we've done, right, we've spent an inordinate amount of time upfront with customer validation, validation of the use case, validating the benefits, um, spending time again and again with these customers in the founding phase, with the inception of the value prop, validating the value prop, but then also in building the product. So, in we have a methodology where we co-create some of these. So not only do we validate this, so we call it sell first and then design the product. So we sell it to the customer, ensure that they're guiding us and validating it. But then when we design it too, we have a few co-creation customers. And so we had, amazing customers. T-Mobile is an example for us, and at Portworx was one of our co-creation customers. GE was a co-creation customer. Comcast is a co-creation customer for us. And so these customers really are innovators in their own right. So they are innovators, just like us in the startup. And so we take an innovative customer who's willing to try out a new technology, help develop it further, and co-create it with us. So co-creation and customer first is a big thing. It has, by the way, huge other benefits. It's very, very motivational to great engineers. Great engineers are motivated not just by technology, but by building technology that solves great problems that are key problems for customers. And so it is very energizing for customers. The second thing that I think I would say is really a dramatic desire to uh, you know make a huge impact, right? You've heard the people sometimes say you have to be 10x better, and that's a speeds and feeds formulation. In today's world, innovation is not just speeds and feeds, but it is about an entirely, visualizing an entirely different architecture and an entirely different, potentially a workflow. Right now, these are very hard things to convince customers to change. There's a inertia is the greatest enemy in some ways of wonderful technology, right? But what overcomes that inertia is that there's a huge benefit that's immediately obvious to people, right? So that's kind of another kind of area of value add. Your value prop needs to be so huge that people just kind of resonate with it and see it as it's dead obvious. And the third thing I would say is not to ignore, right? Engineers today in startups don't just come to a startup because they think of it as a innovation engine. They're looking for success. They're looking for adoption of their uh, technology, of what they've created. So the modern day startup pays equal attention to the go to market model, right? Because sometimes how a technology is delivered, if whether it's a SaaS product, is it delivered as a software product, is it delivered as an appliance, and all of these. So the form factors and the go to market model is a very important part for successful companies, and it's part of being a high performance team. A high performance team knows that there is a whole sort of, the whole product that includes how the product is delivered. And so I think high performance teams are customer motivated. They are hugely innovative, and they're really much more kind of success and business aware than people were at that times. No longer is a wonderful engineer somebody who doesn't think about how a product is going to be supported, how is a product going to be deployed. All of these become very, very important for successful teams.
Awesome. Very well put. Very well put. I think today's talent that you are hiring, they need the impact. They want their work to touch millions of people. I think that's one of the biggest motivating factor.
Yep.
Excellent. So we're almost at the end of this discussion, Murli. So the last question that I have is, uh, what's in store for Portworx in 2024? What to expect from Portworx?
Um, Look, there are three areas where we have a value proposition, right, in the cloud native market for storage and data management. One of them is automation, right? The second thing is data protection, right? So we're providing data protection, which is key resilience of these networks at scale. And the third thing is unification, the ability to deploy anywhere, because most people now are in a hybrid world and soon in a multi-cloud world and so on. So our innovation is in all of these in all of these areas, right? So let's take a simple example of the middle area in data protection, right? We want to provide a a platform that provides high availability backup and disaster recovery for all aspects. It's not just the storage, but for data services. So we are protecting more and more modern databases nowadays. So data services and offering a database as a service has become a key area of innovation for us. We have a product called Portworx Data Services that essentially allows customers to take a whole range of data services and databases, Postgres, Cassandra, Redis, Kafka, all of these data services, and offer them with a unified model of how you manage it, how you patch it, how you upgrade it, how you operate it, right? How you provision it. Because otherwise, all of these things would be managed differently, and you need database teams to kind of become experts in how to deploy all of these different ones. This is really something that most people who know how to manage. They will have dedicated teams for, say, Oracle or maybe even Mongo nowadays, but they can't. But every database, every developer shows up with their own database, and so I think because they like the way it's charged, they like the schema. So data services and automation protection and unification of these data services is a big area for us. Another area, right? As we get more and more into, we talked about AI/ML and so on. I think there's a huge opportunity for us to provide better integration with the AI/ML pipeline, right? And clearly, for example, the preparation of this data, the curation of this data, providing some visualization, integrating with the AI/ML tool set, whether it's OpenFlow and all of those things, are areas that is the responsibility of the cloud native, industry, and so there's a whole area for us. A third area, I think, is more and more now people who are investing in Kubernetes are viewing it as an opportunity area for them to consolidate sort of how they manage VMs and containers under one roof underneath Kubernetes, right?
Mm.
And so there's an area that I think we see a lot of customer interest in. This is. Let me be clear, right? I don't believe that Kubernetes is going to come in and replace a hardcore, classic large scale VM solution. What it really is, it gives optionality for a lot of customers who are looking for a longer term plan and saying, hey, now that I'm getting more and more of my workloads, if a third of my workloads are going to be running inside containers, and some of these containers are running within VMs, can I now try to use Kubernetes, which is a wonderful control plane to manage infrastructure, right? It's not just a way to manage applications, it's a great way to manage infrastructure. Portworx is a wonderful example of that, right? And there's many people who are using Kubernetes not just as a application orchestrator, but as a infrastructure orchestrator. So I think it's an opportunity for companies like Portworx to come in and provide solutions that allow you to manage storage and VMs. Extensions like KubeVirt are very popular nowadays, and more of our customers are deploying that. So really, I think there's a huge amount of innovation uh, as more workloads kind of move on to containers. And most of these workloads are what I would call kind of more the modern workloads. And so kind of providing integration with that stream of both applications and infrastructure that specialize in those type of modern workloads is the opportunity area. A last one, and not the least, is actually, I would say that initially there were a lot of stateless applications that were deployed in the cloud. But nowadays, enterprises are adopting cloud and putting a bunch of these kind of solutions in the cloud, and therefore providing cloud hosted solutions. Portworx kind of, I think you would expect us to kind of now integrate and provide more cloud hosted solutions that manage data services, provide automation, protection, and unification for customers who want to operate anywhere, both on prem and in the cloud. So those are all areas of innovation for us.
Perfect. These are totally in line with what I'm seeing in the market. Particularly with the Broadcom VMware dynamics, I think a lot of customers are considering open source solutions. And I was actually, I had a conversation with Ashish Badani a couple of months ago, and he was talking about KubeVirt becoming a part of the control plane. And I think what you mentioned is absolutely in line with the industry trends. So Murli, that brings us to the end of this discussion. It's been very valuable to hear your insights. So I look forward to having you again in my show later this year. Thanks again for spending time with me.
Jani, a pleasure spending time with you. And I also wanted to say that, knowing you, you probably have a well curated and very knowledgeable audience. So, my thanks to your audience for their attention. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.